Welcome to Sacred Magic. Violet is on a quest to bring sacredness back into our everyday experiences. Anyone can have an extraordinary life when they are able to tap into their sacred magic within. Violet and her guests will be sharing their divine passions, inspirations, and stories of connecting with their sacred magic. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Violet Rain.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Violet Rain. My guest today is Katie Farinas. So hopefully I didn't mispronounce that too bad. She's a mom, a seasoned nurse, a yoga teacher, and host of the empowering podcast, On The Verge. As a Dharma life purpose coach, Katie guides moms on a journey of self-discovery, helping them to uncover their true purpose in this life. And so she loves to help people and assist them on that beautiful journey. So welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Violet. Thank you for having me. It's really an honor.
Well, thank you for being here. Talk to us a little bit on why you're so passionate about helping moms and how it got you to where you are today and what you do.
Yeah. So, like many other life coaches, this all began with my own journey and my own transformation. I spent many, many years feeling really lost and not finding my sense of purpose or not knowing what my purpose was, feeling like I had one, but I just couldn't figure out what it was. And then add in the demands of having young children and a job and a home and all the responsibilities that we all carry in this life. I felt really adrift, and it led to depression. It led to troubles in my marriage. It led to a lot of problems in my life because I felt so detached from myself and so detached from the reason why I was sent here. And I do really believe that we all have a reason for coming onto this earthly plane, coming earthside. And that really our mission or our true work in life is to discover what that is and then to do it. And to do it in service of ourselves and our loved ones and in service really to the world at large. And I was missing that. I was missing that piece. So I was checking all the boxes. I had a career, I had children, I had a marriage, I had a home. We were financially stable. Check, 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 check. I had all the things. But there was no sense of magic, just like the word you use in your podcast title. There was no sense of magic in my life. There was no sense of excitement, awe, these feelings that we all came here to experience, right? We all came here knowing that we would experience the hard stuff, but deciding to come here anyway because of the beautiful stuff that we get to experience. But I felt like my life was in black and white. There was just no color whatsoever. And it was because I was not living in alignment with what my soul came here to do. And I remember saying to my husband and to close friends, they knew I was struggling. And I remember saying, if I knew what it was, I would do it. It's not like I know what it is and I'm consciously choosing not to do it. I just don't know what it is. And I think for me, that was because what I wanted or what I really came here to do was really off the beaten path from what many people do or feel called to do. And so I was living kind of with blinders on, really only seeing the possibilities that were placed before me, right? That were shown to me in a school setting or that I was witnessing other people doing or that my parents had told me about, and not really taking the blinders off and being aware of the infinite possibilities of things that I could do and how I could use my specific skills, talents, life experience to serve myself and to serve the world. And until I learned how to do that, I really couldn't step into my purpose. But I will also say that I had lost my connection to myself. I had really lost my connection to my, what I call I am a yogi. And so I use a lot of yogic terminology because I really studied a lot in that area. But what we call in yoga, your higher self. I had lost my connection to that. I had no guide. I had no inner compass. because I had silenced it for so long that I just couldn't hear it anymore. And so a lot of the work I do with the women I coach is stepping into that. That's one of the first things we do is, how is your connection to your inner self, to your higher self? And how can we reestablish and strengthen that connection?
I love that, because that is our navigation system or guidance, right? Is that inner voice that we have, that sometimes I think when we're younger, it's so opposite of what's happening around us in the world, right? That, oh, I'm crazy, or hey, stop that, or hey, I'm not going to do that. And there's some fear around stepping in some of this stuff, like just trust
Mm-hmm.
that it's all going to work out. And I think that's hard. Trust and surrender it really takes courage and a passion to say, I may sound crazy, but this is what we're going to go do.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
that can really block us from what we're doing. So talk to us a little bit about Dharma. What is Dharma for people listening that have never heard that term or are new to that term? What does that mean to you?
Okay, so Dharma is an ancient Sanskrit term. This is not my term. I did not make it up. And it has been interpreted in many different religions and cultures. So you can find different definitions of Dharma. And some of those definitions are about righteousness, living in the right way. It can be about how we interact with the world. It can be about our own personal journey. The type of Dharma that I'm talking about is something called Sva Dharma. I shorten it to Dharma just because it's easier for people. But Sva Dharma is specifically your duty to self. And it's your duty to self to live out your soul's purpose. And so that is what that term means in the Vedic tradition, and is part of the soul's path, like the 8-limb path of yoga. It's part of our path to enlightenment, is understanding our soul's purpose and then stepping into it.
I love that. But if somebody's out there and they're brand new, how do they find their soul purpose? Just like you in the beginning, if I knew what it was, I would do it, right? So
Right.
how do you guide people, or what do you tell people that are like, well, I don't know what my soul purpose is?
Right. Yes. Yes. I remember saying at one point, after I've been trying for so long, I was like, okay, clearly I don't have one. Like, I'm a default, like something went wrong in the factory. They sent me here without one. I don't know. Um,
I love
because I
that.
was just so frustrated at the time. But our soul's purpose, it's actually, like so many things in our lives, very, very simple. But simple does not mean easy, right? Simple and easy are two different things. And so uncovering your Dharma or your soul's purpose is actually pretty simple. It's just not always easy, because we live in a world where there is a lot of noise and there is a lot of opinions and experts and people saying what is right and wrong. And we get back to this connection to self. We get disconnected from self, right? We start paying attention to all these things that are on the outside of us, and we stop paying attention to what's on the inside of us. And we were not given certain desires, dreams, wishes, passions. We were not given these things for no reason, right? Any person out there listening to this could probably tell you something that they have a dream of doing, or they have a passion for doing, something that puts them into a flow state, something that after they do it, even though maybe it was an activity that actually on the outside required a good bit of energy to perform the task, that afterwards they actually feel more energized from performing the task. Something that makes them feel most authentically themselves. These are all the signs that we're looking for. Our body, getting connected to your body is also really important, because a lot of this recognition, this ability to recognize what does that for us, what puts us in that flow state, what energizes us, what we're energetically drawn to, comes from a deep connection with our bodies and how our bodies respond to certain activities, people, just things that we do in our lives. You have to follow follow the call, follow what your body is literally sometimes pulling you towards, right? Sometimes you can actually, if you get really in touch with your body, you can feel your body either leaning towards something or leaning away from something. That's how intelligent our bodies are to tell us if something is meant for us or not. And it requires a lot of dropping of the mind chatter, right? We have to let go of the stories that we tell ourselves in our mind and really go what our soul and our body is trying to tell us. And so meditation is really helpful. Somatic practices like yoga are really helpful. Anything that's going to allow you to drop into that to your body, to decrease the noise from the outside world, to connect to that higher self, and to give you the permission, like you were saying in the beginning, give yourself the permission to follow it.
The one thing that I found, and I'm going to share this because it's very interesting. When you're looking for soul purpose, the one thing that I've discovered is you have leaned into it most of your life, in and out of it, and didn't pay attention to it. So let me give you an example. When I was in my early 20s, I got into retail management. No matter where I went, no matter what job I got, I always ended up as the trainer. I always ended up as the educator because I loved training, but it was a small aspect of what I was doing. And every time I got to create a training program and deliver it, like you said, it was a lot of work. It took a lot. For most people, they'd be like, and
Yeah.
for me, I was like, I love that. And
Yes.
whether I would tell my boss or my company that I was really good at it, I always ended up in that role. Like I would go
Yeah.
in and not say a whole lot about what I've done in other jobs, and they would
Yeah.
always put me in that role. So
Yes.
move a little ahead in my career. I leave retail and I go into human resources in corporate jobs. What did I do immediately when I moved into these roles was I created training programs and education. It
Yeah.
was just something that I was pulled, that it was important that I educated our managers, that I educated on safety, that I did, and I was always drawn to doing that. Pull again a little further. Later, like midlife, I started saying, hey, I want to be a college professor. So then I went into teaching in the college realm. Do you
Okay.
see the pattern of what's
Yeah.
happening? And when you look at it from that perspective of the world that distracts us, it's like, it's just kind of what you do. No, your purpose is wrapped around that. It's what your heart desires and what
Yeah.
you're passionate about. To today, I have a spiritual center. And when I opened it, my husband's like, well, you're good at managing. Why don't you just manage it? No, I know
Yeah.
I'm here to teach. And he's like, I don't get it, but
Right.
I've done it throughout my
Yes.
entire life that
Yes.
I love to write books for my classes. I love to create curriculum. I
Yeah.
love to deliver education. So when I tell people I've been teaching for 40 years, they look
Yeah.
at me like I got 15 heads. But
Right.
I have taught throughout my whole
Absolutely.
entire life. That's what I've done. That's my
Yeah.
purpose. My purpose is
Yeah.
a piece of that. So those listening, just like Katie's, like if I knew exactly what it was, I would do it. Just take a moment and sit and look at your life. What is repeated throughout your life? What have you noticed that you get pulled into, whether you volunteer for it or somebody goes, "Oh, you're going to do that. Oh, we're designating you." Look at that aspect because there is purpose in all of that as we're
Yeah.
guided. And when you can lean into it fully and understand and embrace, that's where my passion is. That's where my desire is. That's where my inspiration is. So, people that say, I had somebody on the podcast recently that said, what do you play? What is your play? Writing books, building
Hmm.
curriculum. That's where I get the most happy, is when I have a full day to play with designing classes and writing books. And for most people listening, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I would
Right.
hate to, that's my play. But that is
Yeah.
really my play because that's
Yeah.
where my soul sings. And I get so happy when I finish a book or I pull out a curriculum or I teach it the first 10th time. I love delivering it and changing it and vamping it and expanding it. So
Yeah.
it's not it's simple, but not always easy to
Yeah.
see. But if you can step way back and really look, maybe your passion is you love to cook. Maybe your passion is you love working with children. Maybe you just got to look at where you've gotten pulled in throughout your life because the
Mm-hmm.
soul's trying to get you to see it. Hello. This is
Yes.
what you love. Hello.
Yes.
Are you
And
noticing?
discerning the difference between what have I been pulled into because I should have,
Right.
or, I was given this opportunity or whatever, versus what your heart pulled you towards. Because your soul's purpose is a very heart-centered activity. It is led by your heart. And I love what you're saying, how you brought it from this job to this job to this job, because there's a book out there I love. I interviewed the author on my podcast, Sunil Gupta, and he breaks Dharma down. He says there's your soul's purpose and then the expression of it. So he calls your soul's purpose your essence, and then your Dharma it's like in a little equation. Dharma equals essence plus expression. So the essence is kind of the overarching thing, like you're saying, teaching, but the expression may change many, many times throughout your lifetime. You may do this in many different facets of your life, in many different ways. And I think that was a stumbling block for myself many years ago because I felt like it had to be this one thing, that I was searching for this golden egg, right? And it was the only thing that would have been my purpose, instead of recognizing that this is a theme that runs throughout my life. And I have been doing this since childhood, and I have done it in various jobs. I have done it with friends and family. I have done it in parenting. I have done it in every aspect of my life without even knowing it. And so I would encourage everyone not to just look at their jobs, like you're saying, like where else in your life have you been pulled towards this thing? And you will start to see themes.
Yeah, and people see it in you when you can't see it in yourself. So a parent telling you, well, you should be a lawyer, or you should be a doctor, that's not it. What happens is people see it in you and you can't see it in yourself. And so when it shows up and they're like, wow, Katie, you're really good at this. Why don't you handle this aspect? Or Katie, we'd really like you to take this on because this is really something you're good at and you can't see it yourself. And then when you do it and you love it, or you feel fulfilled by it, or you get excited when it's done, or you're proud of your accomplishment,
Mhm.
those are indicators that you're right on target with what your soul really craves and what it
Yeah.
wants more of. And she's right. It can be in every aspect of your life, your personal life, everything that you do. If you can just step back and really look at the things in your life that you've done, accomplished, created, launched, whatever, all those terms
Yeah.
that brought you this fuzzy feeling when you were done with it, that you're like, wow, I really did something. Wow, I'm really proud of that. I put a lot of work in that. And wow, I feel so good about what I accomplished. That's your soul purpose. That is your
Yes.
soul calling you home to do what you can do. And I think where the fear steps in sometimes is we kind of know what that is, but we're afraid we can't make money at it, or we can't be successful at it, or, all those things,
Other
all
people
those
will judge
beliefs.
us for it.
Yes.
Yes, yes. We
All
won't be
those.
good as the next person who does the same thing. That comparisonitis is really it's really challenging thing for people to get over.
Yeah, comparing, competitive, she's got it, but I don't have, just all
Mhm.
that stuff really does block the flow of you being, when you can step in and go, hey, I'm good no matter how big or how small. I'm just
Mhm.
happy to be here to do this. When you can get to that point,
Yeah.
it can expand so wide for you. So
Mhm.
you talk about the importance of connection. We've talked about self. But what about spirituality and others in the world? How do we create that connection and why is it so important?
I mean, to me, I believe the connection is the foundation for so much in our life and not just connection to self. I do believe connection to self is our primary connection, that without that, without having that, we really can't connect to, our the important people in our lives or to the world at large or even to something greater than ourselves, like spirituality. So I do think it begins with that connection to self. But I happen to believe that we are all one, that we are all part of the same ocean. We're just different waves in the ocean. And we come through with our own kind of energetics as these human beings that walk around on planet Earth and do the things we do while we're here. But saying that you and I are separate is like saying that two waves of the same ocean are separate, right? We come from the same thing, we return to the same thing. We're just for a temporary period in time appear as if we are separate. And I believe that knowing that, like deeply and profoundly knowing that in your bones and the deepest parts of yourself, is so important to living a life of connection, to feeling connected to other people, to feeling the connection to earth and to nature, to feeling the connection to your soul's purpose, that these things are not separate from one another. They are part of the same quilt is another analogy that I like to use, that, we're each a string in the quilt. And so if you start peeling away at one of the strings, the quilt starts falling apart. We are all needed. We're all necessary. We all are required to make the quilt strong and sturdy and warm, and beautiful and all the things that it is. And if we live believing that we are separate from the ocean or separate from the fabric of life, the quilt, it's so isolating. And I don't believe that we can be our most authentic selves without that connection, because we are all one, right? How can you be your most authentic self without the rest of yourself? And the rest of yourself is in that connection to all things.
Well, and using that as a theme, think about it. If everybody was joyful, if everybody was happy, if everybody was in their soul purpose, if everybody was doing their passion, their inspiration, think of how consciously the whole world would change,
Yes.
right? When we were in harmony and not competitive, not comparing, not doing all that. If we could be in
Mm-hmm.
that space where everybody was joyful and content and doing what they do, if everybody could find that space energetically, collectively, how that would shift everything around us, right?
Yes.
Because that's really the goal, is to get us all to that point where we can
Yeah.
all be in the space where we let go the distractions and the noise, as Katie said, of the world, and just
Yeah.
unplug from that and plug into who we are, on a conscious level, what a
Yeah.
difference we could make in the world collectively. And just think, if everybody could find their purpose, their flow, their essence of who they are as a divine being, because everyone is divine in
Mm-hmm.
their own self, and then collectively, what a difference that would make
Yeah.
around the world. Now, does that mean, because I believe Katie and I have great tools that we utilize, meditation, yoga, all these practices, whatever those tools are, does that mean our life is perfect? It doesn't have conflict or challenges?
Yeah.
No, because this realm creates that. We came here to experience that. Now, here's the caveat. It's how you move through it that makes the
Mm-hmm.
difference. It's
Yes.
how you don't get stuck and you have lessons learned and new perspectives, and you move through the storm, because the sun always comes out tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you
And
know
Dharma is exactly what you're saying. It's this it is finding your soul's purpose. It is your soul's purpose. But like I mentioned in the beginning, not just for you, in service to the whole world. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I see the world we're living in right now, and it is facing a lot of challenges. And when we are in our Dharma, living our Dharma, we are more peaceful, we are more passionate, we are more creative, we are in flow, we are more cooperative. We are all the things that we need to be to face these really big challenges in our lives. And so to heal the world, I really do believe that we all need to step into our Dharma without any sense of guilt or no hesitation, not holding back, really full-hearted stepping in to what we were meant to do to serve the world.
I love that. So, Katie, if somebody wanted to work with you, talk to us a little bit about the things that you offer, or what they might find on your website. Just share with us a little bit about some of the work you do and how they can find you.
Absolutely. So my website is katiefarinas.com. On there, you can download a free journal called 3 Journal Prompts to Discovering Your Dharma that will get you started on the process. I also have a workbook, 5 Steps to Discovering Your Dharma. So that's another free option. And then I have my podcast, which is currently called Mom on the Verge, but I will let your listeners know that it's will soon be changing names to the Midlife Purpose Project. So if you are listening to this, I'm not exactly sure when the transition will happen. So it could still be under Mom on the Verge, or it could be the Midlife Purpose Project. And then on my website are blog posts, weekly blog posts that dive into a lot of the topics about uncovering self and getting closer, connected to self, and discovering your Dharma. And then there's also coaching options to work with me. So I have various different coaching packages designed for different people where they are in their life, both from a time commitment, from a financial commitment. There's a few different options there.
I love that. I love that. Katie, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today, to be on the show. What a great topic to talk about. I think more people need to lean in and hear these topics so that they can find their Dharma, their purpose, what lights them up. Because I think the more people we can touch out there, the better the world will be. I agree with you. I think it's a goal to get everybody to the right place. So thanks so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Violet. I really appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. I love to be able to, this is my favorite topic in the whole world. So I love to be able to have a great conversation about it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen or watch Sacred Magic Podcast. We have amazing guests talking about a wide range of topics. You can find things that you would be really interested in. I hope you like, comment, or follow us on your favorite platform, and that we'll see you again really soon. Have a sacred, magical week, and many blessings to you.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Violet, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. You can also send a personal message to Violet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. If you love the show, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.